ha. Zach, don't act like you're not excited about this.
I don't even know.
Corporations, y'all. It's good stuff.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Comics and Coffee on Hyper RPG, where we talk about comic books and yell about stupid shit that people do in large corporations that only bring and take joy away from us. Those of us who, shit.
You mean you're not looking forward to the Tom Holland, Tom Hardy, Spider-Man Venom team-up movie? It's so good, Zach. It's so good.
Okay. Should we just, Okay, so here's the thing, y'all. We're going to talk comic books today. We are. We're not just going to talk about the Spider-Man drama.
That was getting ballsy.
Yeah, what's he doing?
Huh.
Malika, can you bring Adam his coffee if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm 2 minutes late for my meeting.
Oh, never mind.
Dang. I don't think anybody cares if I walk off and grab my coffee.
I was just trying
Thanks,
to
Malika.
get you here for the intro. So we're not just gonna talk about Spider-Man. We're gonna talk about comic books too. I promise. I don't even know how we start this conversation though. Here.
Yeah.
I've been super busy the last 2 days.
Sure.
I've stayed for the most part off the internet.
Yeah.
I know you have not. So, walk me through everything that you know. What happened?
Well, I mean, first of all, we were in a meeting. Like, the whole team was in a meeting when this happened.
And you handed me your phone,
Yeah,
I read the headline, and I stopped reading.
I got a notification, and I looked at it, and it said something to the effect of, Marvel Studios loses Spider-Man, or Spider-Man leaving the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I was like, this is what? This can't be real. This is odd. So yeah, I handed him the phone, and he's looking at the phone, and I'm just staring at him, and he's staring at me just like...
I was confused. I thought it was like one of those fake news things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get sent a lot of tweets and stuff that are false articles, like trolley things.
Yeah.
And I was like, this has got to be one of those. I mean, they just announced they were re-releasing the movie in theaters. And
yeah, exactly.
This got to be bullshit.
Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be coming out for Labor Day weekend. It's like I don't know, they're kind of calling it a director's cut, but it's going to have some additional footage in it. And I've also kind of been off social media for the last week, but I still get notifications for big, any sort of breaking news.
Yeah.
So then I sort of started, after our meeting, I started looking into it, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what exactly is happening? And Deadline was the first to report it, and then after they reported it, they wrote an update basically stating that they heard from a Sony rep that it's actually not about Spider-Man and Marvel and Sony getting together, or Disney and Sony getting together to share the rights, but it's about a producer credit. Someone is missing or wants a producer credit on a movie. I don't know if it's future movies or current stuff, or what was sort of happening behind the scenes.
But what about the profit split?
So then, after that, Sony actually tweeted a thread, and we can talk about the thread that they tweeted. I'll pull it up. But after that...
Sony
Pictures.
Sony dropped shit.
Oh yeah, Sony tweeted a thread.
Sony threw public shade in the middle of a deal negotiation?
So apparently...
This is more dramatic than I thought.
Oh, this is more dramatic than you're prepared for, my friend.
Oh no.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching already know sort of the details, but if you have not been sort of following this, the basic idea is this. When Disney and Sony made the deal for Spider-Man to be shared between Sony Pictures and Disney, there really was no profit exchange. It was kind of just like, hey, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours. You let us use Spider-Man. Yeah, you let us use Spider-Man. We'll have Kevin Feige come in and help you produce movies. And Kevin Feige has also been uncredited and has helped create helped sort of give input on the other Spider-Man titles that have happened at Sony. They didn't specify which ones.
But when you watch Far From Home, it is so quintessentially a Marvel movie that ties directly into everything that just happened that it feels like Feige's name should have been on.
And that's the difference between the Spider-Man movies and Venom, Morbius, and all the other stuff. Spider-Man, Homecoming, and Far From Home are made by Marvel Studios. Like, they
Yeah.
make the movie. They produce the movie. Sony fronts the money for it, and Sony distributes it. Because they still technically own the cinematic rights to Spider-Man. They have since
Right.
1999.
And this is the first time they've ever made $1 billion on a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Spider-Man has now officially become Sony's highest grossing and most profitable property to date. I don't know what it was before. Maybe it was Jumanji. Maybe it was Men in Black. I honestly have no idea. I don't really follow Sony that much. And Sony has been kind of a hit and miss studio for the last 3 years. They've had maybe like 8 to 10 movies that have really hit. I would say some of the biggest highlights were the Jumanji movies. Venom did really well for them, but Venom is a movie that like made money, but I don't think it's necessarily a good movie. I think it's a really like schlocky 90s action sci-fi comedy, but I don't think it's necessarily like a good movie. Whatever happens in the sequel, we'll find out. I don't have a lot of faith in Morbius. I basically don't have a lot of faith in Sony Pictures being the only ones to have the rights to Spider-Man and them being the only ones to make the movies. A lot of people will say, well, Spider-Verse won the Oscar. You also have to remember that was a Lord and Miller movie that they wrote and they made with a team of animators, and Sony doesn't care about animation.
I haven't seen much online, and I've tried to stay out of a lot of it until we got to talk. But I did see a couple people saying stuff like, hey, Spider-Verse was great. Marvel didn't help with that. Sony's going to be fine. I'm like, if you look at the credits, Marvel comic books provided a ton of help on that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's written by some of the top writers over there. And the same with the video game. Christos Gage took a lot of his work from Marvel Comics and brought it over to Sony. And that is Disney, who owns Marvel Comics, playing nice and lending a lot. It's not just Feige that contributes on these things. You know, it's the entire Marvel team that is contributing in some of these properties that are doing really well.
Yeah. So, you know, they've been kind of a hit and miss studio and all that sort of stuff. So it sounds like what Disney was proposing, because of the success of Spider-Man and because of how heavily involved people like Kevin Feige and a lot of the Marvel Studios machine is, they wanted to propose sort of a new deal. Now, there was, I think when Spider-Man was added into Endgame and Infinity War, I think there was some sort of an adjustment to the deal.
Yeah.
Where Marvel or Disney Studios was taking like a 5% cut of any sort of like box office revenue. The new proposed deal that Disney wanted to make was, hey Sony, we'll go in 50-50 with you. We'll front half the money for the budget. You front the other half. We'll help you make it. And in return, we ask that we get 50% of the box office profits. Now, to a lot of people, that might sound greedy. To me personally, if you have if your ship is sinking and a mechanic comes in and fixes the ship and the ship starts to rise and be successful, then I'm not really surprised that Sony went in and said like, hey, let's go in on this 50-50. It'll be beneficial for both of us because we'll use Spider-Man.
Sony went in on that? Or was it Marvel that said 50-50?
Disney wanted to go in 50-50.
Yeah, not Sony.
No, Disney wanted to go in 50-50. And because obviously, if we do this together, we can use Spider-Man in our movies. You guys can make Spider-Man movies or distribute Spider-Man movies. We'll help you make them, and all ships will rise. Sony said no to the deal. Sony said, I don't know exactly what they said, but basically, it comes off like Sony thinking, well, we don't need Kevin Feige and Disney to help us make successful movies. We've already done that with things like Venom and Spider-Verse, so I think we'll be fine if we just make them ourselves, no longer having Kevin Feige on board as a producer. There are 2 Spider-Man movies that are still supposed to be made. They are technically supposed to be with Tom Holland and John Watts. Now, there's been some other reports that have come out today in the last 12 hours or so that says John Watts is actually not signed for 3 and 4, but because of the success of the first 2, it's very likely that he would return to do the 3rd and the 4th movie. Now, for Tom Holland, I don't know. He's contractually obligated to whatever he's contractually obligated to. I know that in the past, when people have asked him about, doing a crossover with a character like Venom, he has said that he would love to do it, but in order for that to happen, Venom would have to take place in the MCU because he doesn't want to give up that relationship that Spider-Man has with the Avengers. Yeah. With all of this happening, I don't know where that leaves him and the movies.
This is an interesting thing to discuss because the people who give a shit, I guarantee you, are not the people in these meetings. These are probably meetings between legal teams, top people.
I know Kevin
having
Feige
contract debates.
Yeah, I know Kevin Feige and Tom Rothman had a conversation about it, and then it elevated to Alan Bergman and Alan Horn with the CEO and the heads at Sony.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people who work really hard on these things get kind of left behind in these decisions, as creative usually does. And at the end of the day, business is business. And I think sometimes it's easy for us to forget that because the MCU has done some stuff that is just so unusual in the world of cinema. And we've started to get really comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Of like bringing in these characters, doing this, doing that, bringing all these things together. I mean, when you look at the troubles DC has had at bringing all this together, it's a small miracle that Marvel's been able to do what they've done. And they keep making more money. People are going to want more of a piece of that pie. Someone in the YouTube chat is saying that Disney owns 100% of the merchandise rights for Spider-Man. Because that's huge.
Well, because they technically own Marvel Entertainment, and that's who makes the merchandise. So yeah, they own. But I think Sony owns. I think when it comes to the film versions of these characters, it's a little bit different. When it comes to like the comic book and like the toy, like the regular toys, I think Disney owns 100% of that. But I think when it's anything based on a movie, I think then like Sony has. I don't know how much of the percentage, but I think Sony owns like a certain part of the merchandising for that as well. I don't know how much though.
And the reason I think too this is such a difficult conversation is it's no secret that Disney already owns too much. And I am one of those firm believers that competition is good.
Yeah.
And it's never a good thing to have a company like Disney owning everything. You know, it's like that tweet thread that went out yesterday. I'm sure you saw that, the Disney Plus tweet thread.
Oh yeah,
Where it's
with
like
all their brands,
every brand
just patting themselves on the back.
patting themselves on the back,
Yeah.
and there's a part of you that's like, this is clever, but this is also kind of fucking scary.
Yeah.
These aren't people who are like, we got you, support. It's like, oh no, you all are owned by the same people.
Yeah.
You own all of
You
this.
all report to Mickey Mouse.
Right, all of you, and this is an order from up high, and sometimes that synergy is really cool, but when you start to realize how much it is, man, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That being said, as a Spider-Man fan, I have never been more happy than when Spider-Man became a part of the MCU. And the decisions that have been made there from Tom Holland and the directorial choices and bringing it into the MCU. And this isn't even, we're not even talking yet about the future of this and what that means for the movies that have been set up. You end that second one on a cliffhanger that is just like, this is the future of the character. And that future is MCU. That future, you're doing another fucking reboot, basically. There is no this MCU version of Spider-Man without Tony Stark. Without that world.
The legacy of the Avengers and what that's meant to Peter and everything.
It's the whole foundation of the last fucking movie.
I mean, how do you do a Spider-Man 3 and not include in some way Tony Stark, like you're saying, the connection that Mysterio has to Tony Stark, the connection that, you know, Vulture and all the villains have to the greater Avengers universe, Happy's connection to Peter. You know, you can't just ignore all that. I think it would be very complicated to do a Spider-Man movie where you just ignore all those events. Can you do it? Of course you can do it, but it would feel so just all of a sudden disconnected from the greater universe that it was a part of. Like, you literally couldn't make references to anything because Sony doesn't own any of that. So I don't know. And and I guess now it sort of makes sense that there were no announcements at Comic-Con about a Spider-Man movie, because I think that was the biggest surprise to people.
Negotiation,
yeah, it was like, wait a second, how can you end Far From Home on such a cliffhanger and not announce another movie? Like, I would have figured that we'd be dealing with the events of this film kind of soon, but now this all makes sense. And now it's going to be really weird because on Saturday morning at D23, it's the Walt Disney Studios like feature presentation. And Marvel is expected to be there and talking about Phase 4, Disney Plus, you know, potentially what's going to happen in the future. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sitting there waiting, like, are they officially going to say anything about Spider-Man? I don't know.
Well, I mean, okay, so business at the end of the day is, it's about money, but it's also about feelings.
Yeah.
And we are human after all. And as much as you try to remove the human element from business deals, it's impossible. And obviously, there are going to be people, and this is making a lot of assumptions. I'm not saying I know anything. But
I mean, we
even
don't
just
know
seeing some
shit.
of the people talk in chat about like Disney going to Sony, it feels like a bully move. It does feel like a bully move on Disney's part. Disney, you've become the biggest fucking company in the goddamn world as far as entertainment's concerned, and you're asking for more after you've already made a deal. But at the same time, of course, and if this was prompted by somebody wanting a producer credit and Sony saying no, and then it being like, well, fuck you, you won't give me a producer credit, that to me sounds like feelings get involved, and then it becomes a pride issue, a credit where credit's due issue.
Yeah.
When you have Sony making a bunch of not that well received films, and then Marvel steps in, and all of a sudden it's extremely well received, and Marvel's like, we want credit for that. And they say no, it comes back down to the feelings thing.
Yeah.
But that's an assumption based on what you've read. I understand, money is money, but this feels, to do all this shit publicly and to leak this, it's tactical. You don't let this shit come out unless there's a fucking reason for it.
Yeah.
The amount of times this stuff happens in Hollywood and we never hear about it, it's everything. Everything you've ever seen went through some sort of negotiation like this, and lots of times sat on a chopping block for years. Even the shit we do here at Hyper RPG, the amount of stuff we don't tell you that we're working on because we know 50% of the time it won't even happen. It falls through. You're in negotiations, you get to the contract phase, and it falls apart. Stuff doesn't get signed, and it's done. This happens all the time out here. And you have NDAs for a reason.
Yeah.
This stuff getting out feels tactical. It feels like it's a very bully move on someone at Disney's part to very pettily be like, we know we're the favorite. We're going to send the whole fucking internet after you and put you in a pressure point. And it might work, honestly. It very well could work. And it could be another instance of Disney being like, there's no deal. And then 6 months later, we hear everything's worked out, just like with the James Gunn thing. You know? And like, there's still backroom negotiations going on despite the public reaction to it.
Oh, and I'm sure the second that this whole thing sort of like hit the internet yesterday, you can guarantee that, and I don't care what studio it was, someone picked up the phone and said, let's discuss this further. Let's really figure this out.
Yeah.
And like, look, I mean, I think of it the same way of like, look at Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. was contracted for 3 solo movies and 3 Avengers movies. When that contract expired and or he fulfilled his obligations, when he, specifically referring to Captain America Civil War, there was a contractual renegotiation of like, okay, cool, you want me to bring in more of these movies? I want more money on the back end. I want a higher salary. I want this and I want this. He's like the number 4 or 5 highest paid actor of this year. Do we call him greedy? No, because we understand the value that Tony Stark and the importance that Iron Man brings to that franchise and what he brings, and as an actor, what he brings to the table. And so like a company's going to be willing to meet you halfway on that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is kind of the same thing. Like Spider-Man was kind of dead. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not good.
No.
That franchise wasn't going anywhere.
And Marvel was just continuing this upward trend.
Yeah, and Marvel was like, let's talk, let's figure something out. And like, a lot of credit to Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal, who kind of started that conversation, which we know from the leaks that happened at Sony a few years ago. Like, it was like, look, we both obviously have a passion for this character. We love this character. We want to do the best that we can for this character. I really believe that Kevin Feige and his team have a better understanding and have a bigger passion and love for Spider-Man creatively and from the comic book side more so than Tom Rothman at Sony.
Oh, 100%. I don't think anyone would argue that.
Yeah.
I don't think a single person would argue that. Somebody in the YouTube chat says, why don't you think this was a tactical move from Sony? I think because if Sony was going to leak this outside of an NDA, you would have to be really stupid to think it wouldn't hurt you. Marvel, MCU, Disney is one of the biggest things out there in the entertainment industry right now. I mean, it is now the biggest. To think that you could publicly just be like, we're pulling out. I mean, it affected their stocks. You know, like, yeah, I don't feel like Sony would do that. I feel like someone at Disney does that to put the pressure on them. And that's probably what led to Sony putting their Twitter thread out.
Yeah.
Which I want you to read because I don't know about this.
Okay.
And to have a company like Sony making a response to allegations that are circling in the media is nuts to me.
It just goes to show you the power of Disney, where they haven't said anything about this, but Sony immediately, like, they've had reps talk to other people. You know, they've started. So I'll read this thread. This is from Sony Pictures from last night at almost 10 o'clock at night. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue.
Okay, that actually sounds to me like damage control.
Of course it is.
That's damage control. I thought you were saying it was throwing shade. I'm like, oh, no. That is 100% damage
it's
control.
damage control.
That's like, Feige, please, Feige.
But, I mean, like, when you're
Feige,
Sony...
no, Feige.
When you're Sony and you're backed into a corner and you've had people kind of bombarding your account with stuff all day, you know, I'm not surprised. I honestly don't think we'll ever truly find out what the deals
you'll never
were.
know exactly.
I don't think
you
it's.
won't.
I don't
You
think.
can't.
I don't think we need to. First of all, I think the internet feels a lot of. I don't know. They always feel like they're owed something, some sort of explanation. But to be honest, nobody owes you dick.
You won't get it.
A mega corporation or two mega corporations in Hollywood don't owe you an explanation as to why they're not making Spider-Man movies.
Honestly, just to give you an example, and this is a gross example. Say what you want about Gwyneth Paltrow and her life choices. Sure. But I know a lot of people are making fun of her, and I snicker too, when she's on Chef and she's like, I was in that movie? Mm-hmm. What? I'm only using that as an example to say, even in Hollywood, the little amount that you know what goes on behind these closed doors, the deals that are made, everyone who showed up to that funeral scene thought it was a wedding. Like, if they can keep that from you, you have no idea how secretive these contract negotiations are. And we'll never get to know. And that's why you know it had to be a strategic leak, because this stuff happens every day. There are constantly deals being talked about. There are constantly people having these meetings, and it's all under NDA, and you're not allowed to know about any of it. You only know about it if somebody wanted you to fucking know about it.
I mean, the amount of stuff that always ends up in like development and pre-production and ends up being shelved. I mean, I've met so many people who have gone to meetings, they've pitched things for franchises, and it's going well for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden it's like, we don't have the money to focus on this. We need to shelve this project. Yeah. And sometimes it's like big shit, like Friday the 13th, and these like huge franchises. But yeah, these studios, you will only know what the studios want you to know, and
legally, just legally. I mean. From just a legal standpoint, not what they want to tell you.
Of course.
It's what they can't. Yeah. They're just not allowed to.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know. At the end of the day, look, if Sony ends up making great Spider-Man movies, awesome. They haven't had a track record that proves that they can do it.
I have no faith.
Aside from one animated movie that I don't give Sony Pictures credit to, I give it to the people that Lord and Miller hired to make, because Lord and Miller have made good movies at Sony.
I bet they could get one more. And it will make them think that they've... Just from... Because I feel like people often miscategorize how it's all social perception. Mm-hmm. You are riding... Even Venom is riding off of Marvel's coattails.
Of course.
And the success of Marvel in the MCU and the average moviegoer... not knowing that Marvel's not a part of it, not knowing that only Marvel is really involved in Spider-Man. Like, to them, it's a part of the Spider-Man and Marvel. All this stuff, it's all together.
Yeah.
They get to ride that coattail. And Venom did very well, but if Venom had come out 10 years ago, it wouldn't have done as well.
I mean, look at Spider-Man 3.
Well, it's a... I'd rather watch Venom.
Oh, I would too. You know that Amazon has like an editor's cut of Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
I haven't watched it.
Don't. Just don't.
Just watch Venom again.
But Sony will probably make one more. If this doesn't, I still think this is a negotiation, and we might be like just seeing some of that breakdown. But if Sony decides to be like, fuck it, let's just make one more Spider-Man movie, it will probably do well because they're going to be able to ride off that coattail for a little while longer.
Yeah.
Until people see firsthand, oh, that influence isn't there anymore. Or when the next Avengers movie comes out and for some reason Spider-Man's not in it. And you can guarantee then your average moviegoer goes, wait, what the fuck?
Where's Spider-Man?
Where the fuck's Spider-Man?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I thought he was Tony Stark's boy. You know, like...
I think that's going to be the biggest loss is when we build up Phase 4 and Phase 5 and we do the new Avengers, and you're going to have this missing key element that is the through line from sort of like Volume 1 of Marvel Studios into Volume 2, which is now Phase 4 and beyond. Like, that's gonna be detrimental, I think, to that franchise. Like, I think they'll still be successful, but I think a lot of people are going to go and be like, well, I thought Spider-Man was going to be in this. And like, look, maybe instead of the third movie, whatever these next two movies are, instead of it being a reboot, maybe, and I have nothing to base this on at all, maybe Sony is very aware of the fact that like, okay, well, we can no longer integrate Tom Holland into the Spider-Man movies. Maybe it is in our best interests to do Death of Spider-Man, introduce Miles Morales, and then go that route. And from movie 4 beyond, it'll be the Miles Morales Spider-Man story.
And if we're talking purely hypothetical here,
yeah,
the smartest thing Sony could do if this deal falls through is just make a Miles Morales movie. Just fucking go for it. As much as I hate saying that because I think Tom Holland's the best Peter Parker we've ever had, I will fight you on that. That is the only way I can see them getting out of this without just... You literally end the second Tom Holland Spider-Man movie with... There is, in this current universe of Spider-Man, they made Tony Stark his Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And some of us have an issue with that from a storytelling standpoint, but it made sense in the MCU.
Sure.
And it fucking worked. And you make your entire second movie literally only about him coming to those terms and overcoming that. You can't just negate that in the third film. It is literally, as much as we say, even when we talk about our reviews of Spider-Man, how much we hope the third film goes away from it. Going away from it is one thing. Acting like it never happened
is totally different.
Is impossible.
Yeah.
It's the setup for the entire character. You would have to retell his fucking story without Tony in it, without the Avengers in it, without going to... Bitch, you've been to space. You don't just wipe that out.
Yeah.
I think the smartest thing they could do is just go Miles Morales. Just say Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Do it.
I think that's really all you can do because like exactly what you're saying, the history that has been built with Peter Parker and the importance that the other characters have had in his life up until the point, you know, of where we ended off with Far From Home. I mean, even the villains, the villains themselves are tied into the Avengers universe. You can't just ignore that. You never have to necessarily mention it again, but like, I don't know, to just completely disconnect Spider-Man from his history like that, I don't know. I think I truly believe that the only way you, and you know, it sucks too because we made a fun little pitch of like, well, now that everybody knows his secret identity and people are going to potentially come after him, lawyer up with Matt Murdock. Well, now we can't do that.
It wouldn't have happened anyway. There's no way.
Let's do a crossover where Kraven is introduced in the MCU or Norman Osborn is in the MCU. We'll never do that now. So it's a bummer. Granted, like nothing is 100%. I wouldn't call it 100%
There go my
official
dreams
yet.
of Keanu Reeves being Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, yeah. Now he'll just have to be Silver Surfer or something.
Now get the fuck out of here.
So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily 100% nail in the coffin. I think over the course of the next few months, we will probably hear little things here and there of like, hey, Sony and Disney are talking again. Kevin Feige's talking with people again. And maybe they'll be able to negotiate the deal in a way that, yeah, Disney will be able to get a little bit more piece of the pie, which, like, I'm not really going to tell you whether or not I think that's right or wrong. That's up to you to decide. But all I know is that if I was part of a project, or if someone came to me and asked me to fix their project and I made it successful, and then when I asked them for a raise, they told me to fuck off, I'd be like, well, I don't want to work with you anymore. So, yes, you look at it as two big companies, but also, like, you have to kind of just look at it, you know, for what it is. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. I would love to see Tom Holland continue as Spider-Man in a universe that's connected to the Avengers, because I would love to see him interact with characters like Falcon and Winter Soldier again, or Captain Marvel, or whoever. But
I hate that I feel like these movies are now becoming like Netflix shows, where the second you're like, oh, we're getting somewhere, the story's heating up. Fuck it, we're done.
I know.
We're done.
I know. So I don't know. Maybe, and you know, maybe this will be a good learning lesson for both of these studios, and in the future, for other movies. I mean, it's really only Sony and Universal. Universal owns the rights to the Hulk. You know,
I mean, if this ends up actually falling through completely, I think it will fundamentally change the way things happen going forward. It'd be impossible for it not to, because as much as Disney can bully Fox right now, Sony also knows that there's no way Disney comes out of this clean. Like, it will hurt them in the long run. It will. And Sony has power in owning the character. It will hurt Sony quicker and harder, but in the long run, it will hurt Disney. And it will probably make Disney go like, we can't do that shit anymore. Mm-hmm. We built an entire story plot line in these films around a character that we don't even own, and now we can't bring it back, and all that shit's dropped. And they've worked so hard to tie all these films together to make it all matter. They've created something that, I mean, phase 1 to phase 3, it's a cinematic achievement that I don't even know Marvel will be able to ever pull off again. When you go back 100 years from now and you look at it, and it will fundamentally probably change the way things are done.
I mean, you know, I wonder if the executives at Universal are sitting around going, see, Sony, this is why we never made this deal with Disney. This is why we never wanted to go halvesies on a Hulk movie with them after Incredible Hulk. We didn't want to deal with this shit. I mean, and I honestly don't know. The deal between Sony and Universal is different. So I don't know how many years it has to be before Hulk reverts back to Marvel, because they haven't made a Hulk movie since 2008, and that was a Marvel Studios production, but a Universal distribution. It's been since 2003 since Universal has like made their own Hulk movie. So I don't know. Like, at what point is Mark Ruffalo free of the Universal chains where he can do a solo movie? I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's wild. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think this is over. I think the response from the internet, whatever way you side, is going to keep the conversations going. And I think both studios will use the reactions from the internet as fuel.
I mean, no matter what, Disney, it's such a shitty situation.
It is.
Because
we lose out the most.
As viewers, as fans. And that's what bums me out too, is, you know, a lot of people on those movies lose out too, because they love the properties.
Why would Tom Holland not want to play in a universe with the X-Men and Fantastic Four potentially?
He is a fundamental part of the Avengers. Like, this has to be putting Tom Holland and John Watson in like such an interesting position too, because you integrate so well. And like, if you're Tom Holland and all of a sudden you're like, wait, so I can't.
No, my family.
Yeah, like that's literally they're like family.
It's literally why my tweet yesterday was Spider-Man ripped from home, because he literally has been ripped from home. And as much as Sony owns the film rights, Spider-Man is a Marvel character. Marvel is owned by Disney. That's just how it is.
It puts everyone in a real shitty situation, and it's hard to say who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Both sides are gonna be jockeying for public support. Because stocks are involved. When you're a media company, public opinion, it's your stock value, you know, because it's all based on hype, and people are losing money just by arguing about this, and we don't know what's going on behind those closed doors. It's easy for us to say, this guy sucks with superhero things, and he sucked at running Fox, so he's probably going to be bad at running Sony.
Yeah.
And then it's also easy to say the mouse owns too much, and they're being bullies, and they don't need to own more. Why can't they just let this keep going? And then it'd be easy to come back and be like, why would you plan out 3 more movies 10 years down the line if you
For
don't even
another
own the
studio.
character? Yeah, for another studio. So it's really hard to like paint who's in the wrong without actually knowing what happened on that deal, and we will never know, and it's
Yeah.
just going to be a public spin. Whatever.
At the end of the day, I want what's best for Spider-Man. I want the best Spider-Man movies to exist, and in a perfect world, I would love to see Spider-Man continue interacting with those characters that really helped bring Spider-Man back to life. But you know, we'll see. I guess I don't know. I can't really like blame one studio or the other. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons why this is happening. You know, I'm not getting paid for this deal, so I could kind of give a shit.
I see on the YouTube side, The Last Sith says MCU was started and thriving before they had Spider-Man. They don't need him.
Of course they don't need
They
him.
don't need, but it will affect because they also heavily invested in the character.
Yeah.
And made him integral into the feeling of that universe. They have an easier out than Sony does because Tony died. And Peter was the connection to Tony. And without Tony, it's a lot easier to not have to have Peter. But if you're doing New Avengers and you're bringing in these young kids and you're in New York, it'll be felt.
Yeah.
It'll be felt, and you'll have people, because you got to remember, people like my parents, they love Tom Holland Spider-Man. They love him in the Avengers. They're not going to realize this happened until they go into the next Avengers movie and go, "Where's Spider-Man?"
Yeah.
And a ton of people watch these movies, but they don't keep up on the news like we do. And
Yeah.
it won't really affect until the next movies come out and we see how it affects the box office.
So this is something that is worth mentioning that I've seen people talk about for the last 24 hours. Quila is mentioning, why do you not have faith in Sony? What about Raimi's Spider-Man? That was Sony.
What happened to Raimi is why I don't have faith in them.
Exactly. Number one, it's what happened. Sony forcing Raimi to put characters into movies that he didn't want to do. And then when he wanted to make Spider-Man 4, they were secretly devising a Spider-Man reboot in case Raimi was like, you know what, I don't feel good about this. Also, it's not the same people who were running Sony in 2000 when they made that movie. So yes, Sony as a studio was also way more successful 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They had movies like Men in Black, and the Spider-Man movies were doing really well for them.
They were a huge studio back
They're
then.
huge. They're not that Sony anymore.
Well,
so you can't...
No one. I don't know if it's they're not that Sony anymore. No one is Disney.
Yeah.
I wonder if you
Yeah.
looked at it, if Sony was pulling in more money now than they even did then. It's just that no one is Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I think Disney as a studio was doing fine. I think their movies did fine. I think a lot of their revenue came from merchandise and the theme parks. But once they bought Marvel, that changed. Once they got Star Wars, that changed. Now that they've absorbed things like, ESPN and Fox, then that's going to change drastically for them. So they've absorbed all these things that have built the value of their brand higher and higher and higher and higher. So yeah, I don't see them backing down from that.
This could also be why a lot of the leaked rumors about things that wanted to be done for Phase 4 haven't been confirmed by Marvel too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them were Sony, or they were Spider-Man adjacent. And if these negotiations were going on, like discussion of Dark Avengers with Norman Osborn, well, you can't announce Norman Osborn unless you know for sure
No.
you're locked in with Spider-Man, So that could be why some of that stuff was held off and we didn't hear certain things.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, the only thing you can compare the quality of movies is the stuff that they've made in the last like three to 4 years. Some of it's been great. Like I love the Jumanji movies. I've enjoyed some of the other stuff, but overall they have not been a great studio in terms of making quality movies that have been loved by critics and viewers and also have made a lot of money. Like somebody pointed out Equalizer. I'm like, the movie was terribly reviewed. And yeah, it made some money, but I don't even think it made back like double its budget, which usually is not a good sign because a lot of that money goes into the marketing of the movie as well. So even though it may have cost $50 million to make, with marketing it could have cost upwards of $100 million. Where if it doesn't make and break 200, then it's not really that successful. Like, I don't think a studio is going to call like $50 million that big of a success when other studios are raking in, 10 times the budget of their movies. Unless it's like a small indie distribution studio, that's different.
I saw Jim Below Zero in the Twitch chat. I'm sure she's talking about Feige. It said like, humble up, bro. You've made a lot of other big movies. Like, in my eyes, we don't know what went down there. In reality, Feige has been extremely humble as a producer and creator.
I mean, he's taken uncredited
Tons of uncredited work. And I was fortunate enough to see him speak at USC with Malika last year before Avengers. They replayed Avengers at USC. And
The first one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He
nice.
was there answering questions with Whedon.
Oh, cool.
He's extremely humble. And he's a very normal guy who loves comics and loves these characters and has put a lot of faith and love into them that you can see in the movies. I don't want to just go out and be like, oh, Feige, you're being, whatever.
But plus Feige, like, he's not Disney.
No.
Like, that is a decision that is probably made through certain chains from Alan Horn to Alan Bergman to, what's his name? Bob Iger. And if Feige is now tasked with doing the Fox character movies, plus the Marvel Studios movies, plus Marvel Disney Plus shows, then yeah, maybe Disney looked at that and they went like, well, okay, if you're gonna do all of this work for us, and on top of that, do all this like work for Spider-Man movies for free, that doesn't really sit well for us. We want to make sure that like you as the artist and the creator are compensated for all that. And if it's Feige going like, look, I'm happy to do this, but in order to fit this into my schedule, I need to be compensated more for it. I think that's fair too.
Yeah.
Artists should get paid for the stuff that they
And we don't know. We don't know.
on.
He could
Yeah,
have
we
been
don't
on
know.
set a ton and helped a lot with development. And
I mean, Feige goes on set of every movie they make.
That's true. To me, like, it's so hard to say in those situations because we don't know, because he has been going uncredited on a lot of the ones that he's helping with. We don't even know if that's the producer credit.
Yeah.
It could be somebody else. Like, that's the rumor.
It could be somebody from Sony wanting a credit on Disney stuff. Like, we don't know.
Who knows? We don't know. Feige makes the most sense because that people know he's heavily involved.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go out and say that he needs to humble up because I feel like none of this would exist without him and the fights that he had. Like, I think that's something that's important for people to remember too. Like, Feige fought and got certain people on the Marvel end out of the way for him to be able to make these movies in a way that made sense.
I mean, like the CEO. Well, is Ike Perlmutter still the CEO of Disney or of Marvel Entertainment?
I think, yeah.
In any case,
he was not allowed to help anymore on the movies.
no,
He's
like
out.
Ike Perlmutter was the reason, like why Kevin Feige couldn't do certain things in the movies. So he basically had to go to Disney and say, like, look, this person is stopping me from doing the things that is going to help us make these characters and movies successful. I need to get around this obstacle somehow. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So, it's easy to point those fingers, but I think actions speak loudly too. And
Yeah.
when I see someone doing constant speaking engagements and stuff like that, just to talk about how much they love these things and not being credited in a lot of the movies, I doubt the ego of that person is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Perlmutter is chairman, not CEO.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I've never thought of Feige as someone with an ego, but that's just me. I mean, the weekend we saw Power Rangers, he was in the theater in the front row watching with everybody else.
Yeah.
That's like, he's a normal dude who just is as big a fan as we are.
Yeah. Blvd said, according to Hollywood Reporter, the deal Disney wanted was 50-50 co-financing with a profit sharing of 30-70 benefiting Sony.
I mean, look.
They were only taking 5%?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. That's not bad. If Disney's going to come in 50-50 and they're not even going to ask for 50-50 and it's, what do you say, 30-70?
In favor of Sony?
I don't know. That to me is not greedy.
No.
They're not just asking for profits. They're willing to put money in.
And get less back. Put in 50%, get 30%
Exactly. That's
back.
like if I told Zach, hey man, I'm going to invest 50% into your company, and if you were to ever sell the company, I get a lower percentage back or something. Yeah, done.
Deal. Done.
I mean, like, that's just,
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Go on.
it's like, come on.
Go on.
Whatever. But hey, they're making a Matrix 4. That's interesting.
They don't have shit to do about comic books. I don't care right now.
I wonder if they'll ever make comic books on that.
I'm sure they did at one point.
I'm sure they did, yeah.
I'm sure they did.
So I don't know. We'll see. I think like people are going to argue about it on Twitter. I made some funny jokes and comments about it. I'm not like upset about it. I'm a little sad and disappointed that it is what it is, and hopefully there will be some positive outcome out of all this that will benefit us as viewers, will benefit the studios, and will benefit the character and Tom Holland, because like you said, I love Tom Holland. He's so great.
He's the best.
He's so enthusiastic. I of course believe that he has the best time. Like, how could you not have fun doing a press junket for Infinity War with Sebastian Stan and Evans and Downey and all these fun people? Of course you want to be a part of that family. I'm sure it sucks for him that it's like, cool, I'll never be able to step on a set again where I get to see these cool people unless it's like a non-Marvel related movie. So.
I wonder how much this is short-sighted too, because Lord knows in a lot of things right now, quick money is usually more important than long money. That's kind of the way of the world right now. It's like the Amazon rainforest, Amazonia, just burning to a crisp for money. People are usually more concerned with making money quickly. And someone said in the chat, like, Sony probably thinks they're on cloud 9 right now because they have so much success with the character that they can just profit off the character quickly. And it's like, long term, this could be really terrible for Sony. But if in the short term, they get full profit and full ownership for a while, somebody's thinking, well, I'm only going to be doing this job for another 10 years anyway. So let's pump out 2 more of these babies, and it's not my problem anymore.
Whoever the next CEO or head of development, it's their problem, yeah.
That's how a lot of people think in these industries once they've already made it. It's just like, it's my problem now. I want this to benefit me. Whoever's next in line, fuck them.
I mean, I will say, Warner Brothers is so goddamn lucky that they have the rights to all of their characters. They don't have to do any of this. They just make movies, if they make them. So.
Well, obviously, there's a lot to say about this situation. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more. I know you guys on Friday for Hyper Heroes will be talking all about it, and I'm sure Hector will have thoughts.
And I'm going to D23 Expo on Friday, and that's going to be the Disney Plus showcase. So I'm curious to see how much of it will be Marvel centric versus Star Wars, and if it's heavy Marvel influence, then are we going to see footage? Are they going to announce more stuff? And if that's the case, okay, for the cinematic stuff, what are you showing us? You gave us a whole slate at Comic-Con, so we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I agree. This is kind of like 2 parents fighting over custody in a divorce.
It is. It's like who made the kid, who adopted the kid,
who loses
the kid,
is
who gets the kid.
Peter Parker. Peter Parker loses no matter what.
It sucks,
Mommy
man.
and Daddy are fighting. Peter Parker suffers the consequences.
Also, I will say this is not related to this Spider-Man, but like, I've seen a lot of weird comments. I don't know how you feel about this. I really like the Raimi movies. I don't know why in 15 years it's become cool to shit on them. I don't understand that trend of like, the new thing is out, therefore the old thing is bad. I don't get that.
It goes both ways though. People get mad when new changes happen and the old thing still exists, like people get upset that some new character is like this or that. It's like, well, your thing's still out there. Nobody can take the Raimi movies away from you. I love them. The second one, well, I love it. It's a special place in my heart. So special.
I just don't understand like why people vocally are like, these movies are terrible now because Tom Holland's better. I'm like,
Tom Holland to me is better. I like him better. But that doesn't make it less enjoyable to watch frickin' Spider-Man hold a train that's about to fall off. Like, that's one of the most Spider-Man moments of all time.
I mean, it's
It's also just the internet's filled with shit people.
That's also
And
true.
we have to see all of their shit opinions.
Yeah.
If I could hide shit opinions before I see them, I would.
How do you filter shit opinions?
Just when people have shit opinions, get rid of them.
Get this
I know
shit
you and I
out of
both
here.
have a shit ton of people on mute, and they still come up on my timeline.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I mute so many things.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with like Batman and Superman and every hero who's had a reboot. I'm like, I still think I think Tim Burton's Batman movie is still cool for what
It's
it is.
so fucking good. That's the thing with art, though. I think part of the problem is people are looking at them as if they're like these cultural representations of themselves
Yeah.
instead of as art. They're movies.
Yeah.
They're fucking art, man.
Yeah.
Just because a new thing comes out doesn't make that old piece of art less good.
Yeah.
There's so many like cool things in the Tim Burton Batman movies. When you were rewatching them the other day,
Dude.
there's
Danny
shots in
Elfman's
there.
score is so good.
There's shots
Yeah.
in that movie that are just. There's a magic to it. That
Yeah.
You're like, nobody can ever take that away. I know 50 years from now, I don't care how advanced we are in cinema, there's certain things you can pop back in, and if you enjoy art and movies as what they are,
Yeah.
you will always like it. I'll be watching Endgame and Infinity War until I die.
Yeah.
Which could be next year, but you get the idea. Like, it's going to be a long time.
Until they've rebooted Avengers 3 times, and I'm like, yeah, but this, like, it's the same thing with Star Wars. We still love the original.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Nobody's taking that away from you. Who cares?
Internet's weird.
Go watch the old shit. Fucking love it.
Yeah.
If you like that, it's yours. You don't have to. It goes both ways though. People shit on the old stuff, but then other people shit on the new stuff,
Of
and it's like it
course.
didn't change.
Yeah,
It's just shit
absolutely.
opinions, man. Just people. They like to drop their shit.
I just love to love it all sometimes,
I was
and
just-
I'm totally okay with that.
I know. Like I won't say who, but a very well-known YouTuber told us, I really like you guys' YouTube channel. You're really like honest and fair. Sucks that that's why you won't succeed. I'm like,
Yep. You have to be controversial on YouTube to be successful. And I mean, I know. It sucks, man, because like we could have very easily made the headline of this video, Sony gets full rights back to Spider-Man.
sucks.
Thank God.
Yeah,
or
right.
Sony sucks, or Disney
Disney's
sucks.
the worst.
But like, does YouTube need more cynical assholes on the platform? Don't we have enough of that? I guess that's not cool. I don't know.
But it's just whatever. Remember, these things are complicated before you jump on the internet and say fuck Sony or fuck Disney.
And also, please don't act like you are I don't know, that you like understand the finance and the monetary behind the scenes inner workings of a movie studio, because you don't. There's so many people who I'm like, oh, I forgot that you guys are line producers and you're studio executives and chairman and all this sort of stuff. Like, come on, guys.
Oh, we get that all the time here. People will tell us you should be doing this. I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It's always easy on the outside to have
Yeah.
an opinion of how something should be. And honestly, sometimes you just need a reality check. The biggest reality check I ever got from movies was trying to make one.
That is why I have the opinions that I do, because I tried and it's so fucking hard.
Yeah, and running your own business changes how you feel about how other people run theirs. And
Yeah.
it gives you perspective is one of the most powerful and important tools, and human empathy in general is also really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came out to LA like every other idiot from the Midwest, being like, Psh, I got this. I'm gonna make movies. I've been doing great in my hometown. I've already like surpassed all my goals there. It's time to go to LA. My first day on a big shoot out in Hollywood, I got fired from that job. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I was a fucking idiot.
It set you straight real quick.
Oh, yes. It was an immediate, like, I got yelled at, I got cussed out, and it wasn't that I did anything in hindsight that bad, but just to have right in your face this immediate kind of like, you don't know shit. You don't know shit. Check yourself, rearrange your perspective, educate yourself, and shut the fuck up. That was the number one most valuable thing I ever learned working in movies. Shut the fuck up. Know when it's your turn to talk and when to shut the fuck up. Best thing I ever learned.
Yep.
Best thing. Nobody cares what you think, dude. Nobody cares when you're when you're on the camera department and you have a thought, nobody gives a shit.
Imagine if people on Twitter tried to make movies. Boy, y'all would get thrown off set left and right.
Movies are not a democracy. They don't work like the way you think they work, where you get an opinion. You don't. You fucking don't. They are one of the quintessential like hierarchy systems in a job place, and because things move so fast with so much money, you shut the fuck up or you will never work again.
It's true. It's true.
They are a dictatorship, and there's a lot of money in them, and you learn real quick.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
And I think like the thing that you and I have in common is we came from. I mean, San Diego's not a small town, but it's not Hollywood.
Yeah.
And stuff isn't made there like it is here, where on every corner and every street, if you have more than like 2 people with a camera, you have to have permits. You have to have all these like licenses and all, like, because everything, there's like liabilities are all over the place. San Diego, we didn't need that either. We just grabbed the camera, we just walked down the street, we filmed stuff.
Did shit.
Here, you walk anywhere, and if there's like more than 3, they're like, "Do you have permits?"
You got a permit?
Yeah.
Who
It's
am I
crazy.
talking to here?
Yeah. Who are you? What's your?
We
you
got
know,
kicked out of our last house. LA's different.
It's not easy.
LA's different. Yeah, I feel like that's the film school everyone needs. Shut the fuck up.
I think this should just be a YouTube video. Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. I swear to
So
God.
you want to be a filmmaker? Just shut the fuck up.
Pay attention. Listen. Learn. Take notes.
Zach, I
and
wish-
keep your mouth
I
shut.
wish we could just do a master class that's just that saucy.
I've been listening to all the master classes, and I
Yeah.
want one person to be that honest. Everyone's just so like up their own ass about the art about it all. But the best advice you could give,
Shut the fuck up.
just shut the fuck up. If David Lynch had just been, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. You walk on my set? Shut the fuck up. You pull your phone out?
You
Get the fuck
follow
off my set.
the thought as it crosses into the ocean of shut your fucking mouth. Nobody cares what you think. This is my movie, not yours.
Yup. So fun.
So, are we gonna talk about comic books?
I mean, eventually.
No, God, I just want to do one that's like a Werner Herzog version of that.
Oh my god.
Oh God. Like he'll be out in the jungle with a book, and
Yeah.
he probably has. Actually, I had a friend who took his class.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Malika's friend Wes, and he won an award too through it.
Oh,
and got
wow.
to travel with it. That is something I'm forever. I like if this doesn't work out, which is very possible.
If we're homeless tomorrow, which probably will be.
I'm gonna sign up for Werner Herzog's film class because I've heard amazing things. Amazing things.
Yeah.
Okay. There are like 5 camera operators in Hollywood who can have an input, and you're not one of them. I mean, I don't even know if you're a camera op and not a director of photography.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are as a camera op. If you just like blurt out after a shot, like I don't know. I think maybe this could have been better if we moved the camera over here, or if maybe what if the actor did this?
That's me.
I don't know if this scene makes sense.
Look,
I'm not able to track it. As a camera op, I would just like to let you know, I don't think the script right here is really motivating this character in the right way. No.
They would run you over with a truck.
Too bad parents can't use that line, says my dad. I'm pretty sure that's where I learned it from.
Yeah. It's crazy. I watched Apocalypse Now, the final cut, yesterday on IMAX.
Yeah.
And just watching that movie, it's one of those movies that you watch, and as someone who's like been on a set and tried to make a movie and just, you know, is into the filmmaking process, to just sit there and watch this movie and think like, okay, what are all the things that went into blowing up a village and having all these helicopters and all this stuff? Like, I can't imagine being on that set and how crazy that was.
By the way, what's up, Andre? Andre's in the chat.
Oh, what's
up,
up?
dude? How's it going? I'm sure he wants our juicy take on Spider-Man. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see your video, Andre, of you talking about it. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh man.
So should we talk about comic books?
Probably. You don't want to tell people to shut the fuck up a few more times about filmmaking?
God, I do. And honestly, that's why a lot of people want to make their own movies, so they can tell other people, I'm in charge. Shut the fuck
true.
up.
I
That's
mean,
the
it's not
other
true.
big abuse you see in the industry is somebody then is the director, and they
Yeah.
know I'm the director. I'm
No,
allowed
I
to
can tell you.
I'm allowed to tell everyone else to shut up, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
And you wish that somebody could in that dictatorship say,
Yeah.
"Hey, by the way," but you can't. That's not how it works. So, we're going to talk about some comic books today. We hope you stick around. For those who might have been tuning
Someone
in.
already said, bye, guys. I'll see you later. Where are you going? We're
What
not
the
done.
fuck? Who did that?
We have
Who
another
was it?
hour left.
Who was it?
We have another hour left
Who
in
did
this
it?
show. Where are you
we
going?
have another hour. This is where we actually talk about the stuff that we're excited to talk about. I didn't want to talk about Spider-Man leaving. So, for those that don't know, this is a comic book show, and we do not sit here and trash on comics. We talk about the comics we like.
Hell yeah.
And all the things that came out this week that we're excited about and we read and have thoughts on and want you to pick up. If you are just tuning in for all that Spider-Man drama, you should stick around. You might actually find something that you like.
Yeah.
Lord knows every week somebody tweets at us saying, "Holy crap, I just picked up this book. I had no idea. Now I'm super pumped about it." So
I was super pumped last week, I think, or the week before. I wouldn't shut up about Space Bandits, and Coy Jandro picked it up, and he was like, "Dude, this book is awesome." I'm like, I'm so glad that I can have a little bit of an influence on on our fellow content creators who are trying to read as many comics as they can,
yeah.
which is cool.
I've been really enjoying all the tweets that have been coming at us.
Me
of,
too.
Like, picking this up, picked up this
Yeah.
book, so great. So should we just get right into it since we only got an hour left and we're probably going to talk about Powers of 10 for 30 minutes? Because you caught up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I called it. I called it. If you were watching last week, I freaking called it. Cameron, if you're still watching, yeah, called it. I don't know why I feel validated in that. There should be no validation in that whatsoever. There should be none.
Oh my god.
Called it.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's just start off right at the top with the book I didn't have time to read.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, Iron Man.
I thought you were gonna read it, so I was like,
did
you know
too,
what?
but
I'm gonna
I didn't
skip
have,
this.
I didn't have time. I didn't
Yeah.
have time. I ended up setting up all the tech today.
I'm not gonna lie, I spent way too much time making that thumbnail back there, and then I realized it was 2, and I'm like, I need to start reading.
Yeah, we are down an employee today, so I was setting up
Yeah.
equipment downstairs and upstairs, which means I didn't get to read everything I wanted to read.
Yeah.
But that means we get just to jump right into the Weatherman Volume 2, Number 3. This book is stupid fun, even if I don't know what the fuck is going on. Do you know what's going on?
No, I haven't read
I need
this.
to go back and read Volume 1 because I feel like there's a lot of things that were set down in Volume 1 that are coming back up, as any good story should. But it's really enjoyable. The art is really fun. The story's really fun and filled with surprises. And it's got a really good vibe to it. And I know you read the first one.
I think so.
You did. I remember you liked it.
Was this the one where they're out in space where you were telling me about? Yeah. Right?
Yeah, you read
With
it.
the father and the son?
No,
No? What was that one?
that's written by Jason Aaron.
Yeah, what is that called?
Sea of Stars?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
Sea of Stars?
So the only thing, okay, so like educate me. It says the Weatherman Volume 2, Number 3. Does that mean that there are 2 other Volume 2s?
There's a Volume 1 that's probably got like a 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, and then there's
Gotcha.
Volume 2 started. It's an interesting way to do books. Usually they don't define the volumes until after. So this was like, here's a set, and then they came out later with this one, and they're calling it Volume
Gotcha.
2. New break into the story.
Gotcha.
I do know you read number 1. I remember we talked about it on the show.
Yeah, I gotta. If I like look through the pages, I'm sure I'll recognize them. Like, oh yeah, it's this story.
So let's move on then. Valkyrie,
Did you
number
read this?
2.
This cover was so cool.
I'm really digging this book.
I gotta read issue 1 because I saw it was a 2, and I'm like, I gotta read the first
For
one.
one, Cafu's art in this, Cafu's art is
I just like the
it's
name
sick.
Cafu.
The art is freaking sick. It's a great book. It's fun.
Yeah.
This is some good shit. This is, I never would have thought as a Jason Aaron fan from way back when, and the fact that Southern Bastards was like my favorite book. I never would have thought that his Thor mythology would be the thing that I think he should be most known for. And even to the fact that, like, you know, he did Thor with Jane Foster,
Yeah.
and now Jane Foster is Valkyrie, and it's just great. It's just adding to the Thor mythos. It feels like it belongs right in there with this Thor book. It's all together. It's great.
What So obviously Jane Foster has gone from being Jane,
This art is just so good.
Thor,
The
and now
art is so
Valkyrie.
good. Yeah.
What do you think it is about Jane Foster that Jason Aaron found to be so special to kind of like utilize her for all these different roles?
Well, I think
is it purely story driven?
I think he had to at first.
Okay.
Because she is a part of the Thor mythos from years back. But as she's grown, now we get to have her as Valkyrie and things like that. Like, I think that that's part of just the natural track of the character he's been telling. But I think he
Gotcha.
had to bring her in at first because it's hard to do a Thor run from beginning to end without ever introducing Jane Foster.
yeah.
She's too quintessential to
The
Thor.
mythology,
And he
yeah.
brought in a lot of other really amazing, powerful women in this storyline too. I mean, we saw that at the beginning of War of the Realms when it was all of Thor's exes all working together. But her having access to Valkyrie's powers has been really fun. She can see when someone's gonna die.
Wow.
And like right up to the moment, they visualize it with a skull that's growing over them, and so the larger it is, the more recent it's about to happen.
Oh wow.
So that's yeah.
That's cool.
It's
Yeah,
really
I
fun.
really, I unless, because I know you have some of them, where I just need to go and just get my own versions and just power through Jason Aaron's run of Thor.
It's so good.
I know.
You just
I
won't,
know.
You won't
I
regret
believe
it.
it.
It's
Especially leading up into Thor: Love and Thunder. Granted, that movie doesn't come out for like 2 years, so it's fine. I got plenty of time, but I definitely want to commit to like, okay, I want to.
Hey, come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Hey.
No. Come on. Really? We're going to do that? We're going to do that? We got to remember to put his little collar
I
on.
know. See. Oh.
Oh, you're in trouble. Nope, now he's in trouble.
Kai just confused. He's like,
What's happening?
what's going on? Why do I not get to go down?
Why am I in trouble?
But yeah, no, I mean, I really want to read through this run because I have a feeling that, I mean, it's no secret that it's going to be hugely influential for where we go forward with Thor's mythology and his world cinematically.
And I couldn't be happier because
Yeah.
Jason Aaron has, to me, redefined what Thor should be. And just as, you know, the third Thor movie did.
Yeah.
You know, I think they will merge together so
Yeah.
well. Next up on the list is Strayed #1. I picked this up because it looked like internet gold. It's a cat on a cover, and this is really interesting, this book. I didn't check it out, so maybe you all can. I'm going to go to the back here. While you're reading this book, they made a playlist. So listen to the sounds of the astral realms. Go to carlsagavoni.bandcamp.com. Listen to new psychedelic space music soundtrack with each issue.
I'm about this.
This is your
I
stuff.
am about this. Now I want to read this. Now I'm in.
Yeah,
You sold me.
you're gonna have to pull it up, read the issue.
That's awesome.
This was a fun book.
Yeah.
I won't like. I'll show you some stuff here. Basically, it gets right into it. A woman has a cat. This woman created technology that allows her to speak telepathically with other beings. When she starts speaking telepathically with her cat, she discovers that her cat can travel the cosmos on the astral plane.
That's fucking sick.
And it's so funny because the story is presented in such a standard way. It doesn't sound weird till you lay it all out.
Yeah.
And if I had any complaints about the book at all, it'd just be, it's, for better or worse, presented extremely linearly standard as a
Okay.
comic book. But art's really cool, and the concept. So yeah, this cat can travel the astral plane. What's it looking for? Earths to, or not Earths, other planets that are habitable that can be mined for resources for a military-esque society. So we have this very military-esque society that's out in space. The woman who owns the cat is being held prisoner and has to tell her cat to go find these things. And it's just like
Interesting.
a super crazy, weird setup.
That's super interesting. I really dig the art though. Yeah.
So here's the cat looking out through space for all
That's
these different
so
things on the
cool.
astral plane. Very interesting concept.
That's dope.
But at the end of the day, it's just the cat wanting to
Yeah.
spend time with the owner. Wow. And the book's promised at the end to have a lot more surprises in store. And so this is one I'll be picking up. This
Yeah.
is one I'll be picking up to see where it goes.
And the reason I made a big deal about the Bandcamp is because, like, I personally love listening to movie scores when I read a lot of these comics, especially if it's like X-Men, for example. Every time I've been reading House of X or Powers of 10, I've been listening to Henry Jackman's score for First Class. I just really love that score, so I've been listening to that. For Flash, I listen to the Flash TV show score. If it's Superman, I'll mix it up between like the movies from all the different eras and all that sort of stuff. This comic was crazy.
So pretty violent with lots of swears. Number 1 came out this week. This is a really fun book.
I really like this book.
Of course, the person who made it was one of the lead designers on Adventure Time.
Oh,
Makes total sense,
Makes
right?
Total sense, yeah.
It's really violent. It's really over the top.
Yeah, but
And,
that's what I like from the cover.
It's like Invincible, but with cartoon like really cartoony.
You would think that like from if you were just looking at the cover, you'd think, oh, this is like looks like a fun like Powerpuff Girls type of comic book. You get to the first page, you're like, that's just okay. This is pretty fine, and then you get like 2 pages in, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's it's just a really normal, like cartoonish kind of book. Okay,
Cool,
okay,
cool. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool,
right on,
cool.
right on.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's that?
interesting.
Is that a rib cage?
Oh,
What's going on?
Oh, we're ripping things apart.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, wait, that's an
okay.
innocent bystander? The
okay.
entire community wants to kill her even though she was saving them?
Not knowing that she was. Oh, okay. Intestines.
Interesting,
Cool.
interesting.
Oh.
Now
okay.
he's taking the bodies of the bystander. Okay, all right,
beating
cool.
her with them. Awesome, great. But I love this because I think again it was sort of an unexpected surprise. Like I kind of quickly read the title. I didn't realize that it had all the other like words in there. So I was like, it looks fun. I'm just gonna read through it and see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got 4 pages in. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
I
Okay.
really, really like this setup, even from not just the art and the tone. The story was really well told.
It was, yeah.
And, I'll tell you what you find out at the end just because they're using it to promote the book, so
Sure.
you could find it out if you looked it up.
Sure.
Basically, she is part of a supervillain family, but she wants to be a superhero, and she's out trying to do superheroic deeds, but every time she does, she ends up killing a bunch of innocent bystanders, hurting people, and all the people in the public hate her.
Or she accidentally kills the hero instead of the villain.
Right. But she wants to be a good guy really bad.
Yeah.
So
It's
super
great.
fun.
Really
Super
liked
fun.
it, yeah.
I recommend picking this book up.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with it. Let's see. What's next?
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I like the introduction of the character in the middle who was like looking for the secret underground base and the way she handled that conversation I thought was really fun. Did you get a chance to read Psylords?
I did read Psylords, yeah, and it's good. I think the one thing that I'm discovering with Psylords as I like read it issue to issue is it's a little forgetful, and a lot of the information issue to issue doesn't really stick.
It's dense.
It is dense.
It's
yeah.
dense.
So there are moments where I have to either go back to an issue and like maybe go back through the last like 2 or 3 pages to remind myself where we ended, or I have to look up and remind myself, okay, who exactly are these characters? What are their power sets and stuff? But
I did like the exposition in this one.
I did too.
We finally get to learn where their powers come from,
Yes.
what's going on, and I thought the ending of the book was awesome.
Oh, so good.
The ending of this
Yeah.
issue was like, okay,
Now we're moving.
now we're fucking
And I think
moving.
that's the big thing. I think the first 2 issues are very much about these characters figuring out what's happening. And this 3rd issue was a nice way to sum up sort of like, this is where everything kind of came from. And now with this very climactic ending, I would imagine that issue 4 is like, let's get into the story, like the real meat of the story, and like, how are we now pushing forward?
Yeah.
There were some really cool revelations about some of the characters, and now I'm just sort of intrigued of like, okay, does the end lead us to believe one thing, but it's really the outcome is going to be something else? But it's still great.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's still great.
The ending is so surprising. I don't want to open it
Yeah.
and have you see it.
Yeah.
I would agree. This might be a book that plays really good in a trade.
Yeah,
With that
I
being
think we
said,
mentioned that.
last time
Last
probably.
time,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very dense. There's a lot going on. There's another book on here that I think will only work as a trade as well that I'll get to, I'm sure. But it is dense and it's hard
Yeah.
to remember everything that's going on. I think part of that, as beautiful as the art is, because the art is so detailed, I find sometimes with books that have extremely detailed art that has a painterly quality to it, sequential art when it's done really, really well, is also helping your brain track what's going on.
Yeah.
And as beautiful as the art is, sometimes it's hard to follow. From a design standpoint, which I think would help you remember who these characters are, what they're doing, where they're going.
Yeah.
It's very painterly, which allows your imagination to go a lot further.
Yes.
And move around all over the page, which
Yeah.
can make it a little hard to track at times. When that's used well, I think it's when they want you to be confused.
Yeah.
I think the problem is sometimes in these books, they're trying to get you to follow a very linear story, and your brain is just, it's all over the place. For instance, Powers of X, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, Hickman has done an amazing job of laying things out in a way where you're able to remember what's going on,
Yes.
even though it's extremely convoluted.
Dude.
And a lot of that, and I will say, he's better at it now than he used to be.
Okay.
If you go back and read the Avengers at the same rate, when he was doing Avengers and New Avengers, it's not nearly this well plotted.
Gotcha.
It's still amazing, but you had to wait for the trade, because week to week, it was not as clean as X-Men and like House of X and Powers of 10 has been. It's just not. He's learned. He's gotten really good at that plotting. My favorite example of that stuff is David Aja art. Aja, however, when he did Wrath of the Eternal Warrior, when he did Hawkeye, his form of sequential storytelling, even when it was extremely graphed out, which he used to do a lot of the graphs for Hickman too, back in the old Hickman books. He has a graphic designer background. It helped me remember everything that was always going on.
Yeah.
Because the sequential aspect of the storytelling was doing such a good job of building a movie in your head and tracking you exactly where you're supposed to go. It was really easy to follow. We're going to skip Powers of 10 for now, come back to it.
Someone also did ask, I can't read the... Oh, Ronan's asking if we read Blade Runner 2019.
You started to, right?
I started it. I guess issue 2 would be out at this point. I'll go back and I'll see if it's on there, and I'll give it a read. I liked issue 1. There's a lot of like seed sprinkling that I thought was really, really cool, but yeah.
Middle West number 10.
You're all about this.
I'm all about this fucking
Yeah.
book. I am all about this book.
Yeah.
I know I've talked about it on here almost every week. This is an indie book. It's probably going to pop up where I don't want it to. Okay, no, that's good. That's good. I don't want to like totally give anything away.
Yeah.
At the end of the last issue, he's told to go to the storm in the north. You're pretty easily, as a reader, able to figure out like that's going to be a relative, and then it ends with his grandfather saying hello. The whole concept behind this book is like, it's so well done because it's basically a children's book. It's a kid's tale that's not dumbing it down for kids, and it's extremely heady in how it's approaching this subject. It's Scotty Young, and I think it's Scotty Young at his best he's ever done. And it's dealing a lot with what you bring with you from your childhood, what you're born with, and can you change it? You know, like the grandfather was abusive towards the dad, and the dad was abusive towards the son. Can the son end the circle of violence and break it?
Yeah.
Because his anger is already in his heart. And he literally has a scar on his chest that is the storm. He has the storm in his heart. And when he gets angry, turns into a tornado and destroys everything around him. And his father turns into a tornado. His grandfather is this blizzard. And it does such a great job of breaking it down in a way that it's why I love old fables and old kids stories.
Yeah.
Because they weren't super like direct and linear. It was all metaphorical. And it's a great metaphor for kids. It's a great metaphor for just what path you want to lead in life, and if you can break away from is it genetics, is it the way you were raised, like, what defines you.
Yeah.
So
How do you
good.
break that cycle?
Yeah. Big fan of these books. And there's some really touching moments in every one of these. What I really love about these books is they don't just come out and make any of them villains. You know, the dad in the book and the grandfather are both abusive, but there's all these like really touching moments about their confusion and where their anger comes from and why they're angry and whether or not they should suppress that anger or own it with pride. Does it define them? It really well done. If you're into that kind of stuff, I recommend it.
Yeah.
Recommend
Nice.
it heavily. Okay. And you're only 10 issues in on that book, so if you're going to check it out, get in now.
Yeah, I think someone was mentioning that Volume 1 is now available.
It is. Volume 1 just came out.
There you go.
Matt was saying that. Matt, have you checked it out yet? I know I told you about it a long time ago. I told you about it. Let's see. Last Stop on the Red Line, number 3. This is a book you have to get as a trade.
Oh,
It's a trade book.
I've never heard of this.
I talk about it every time.
Really?
I've talked about it every issue. It's super
okay.
hard to track.
Yeah,
You
I remember
need to
which one
read it
this
as a
is.
trade. This is
Yeah.
one, like, I'm to the point where I might stop reading it until the trade comes out.
Oh, really?
This one especially, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. The way it's told, the way you're introducing a new world, it's a little hard to follow. I felt like the most clarity I've gotten on this entire book was on the second to last page of this book. They do a quick brief of the story, and I was like, oh.
Like what's happened up to this point, sort of
Or just
thing?
kind of like they redefine the story for you, and I'm like, I get it now. I didn't even get it until I read those paragraphs.
Oh, interesting.
Of being able to track exactly what was going on. There's some great art, a lot of cool moments, but there's a lot to take in, and I think I'm going to wait for the trade.
At what, like, I don't know how to really ask this question because I don't want to, like, make it sound like I'm talking down to the creators of this book, but, like, at what point does the story or the idea become too complicated to where you need, like, a summary of, like, oh, now I understand what's happening?
I think it's about execution, because
Yeah.
I don't think the concept is too convoluted. I think
Yeah.
it's about execution. For instance, when you just read this, it makes sense. Yusef proposes a partnership with Detective Torres to take down Boston's Phantom Strangler. Yusef's abilities, coupled with a connection between a long-past murder and the recent homicides, may provide the only gateway to uncovering the identity of the killer. If I had read that before I read this issue, I would think completely differently about the issue, because I would be reading it from a much different standpoint.
Yeah.
The book itself has a lot going on, and it can be really hard to track because there's a lot of dream sequences. There's a lot of drug sequences. So it is hard to follow.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an execution issue. But sometimes I have less issues with those execution things when I read them as a trade.
Sure.
Some books work better when all 5 issues are laid out next to each other.
Yeah.
And you can just go
You
right
just
into
go through
it.
the whole thing. You're like, okay, I
When I'm
understand
waiting,
exactly what's happening.
when I'm waiting 2 to 3 weeks between an issue,
Yeah.
and I've forgotten what's happened up to that point, and I'm having to refresh myself as I read,
Right.
it can be extremely, extremely hard. Extremely, extremely hard to follow. But if you like, it's got a lot of metaphysical stuff, vampires. There was some weird stuff said in this issue, like really weird, that I was having a hard time placing its purpose, and I kind of want to know where it goes next. I'm still reading Faithless.
Oh my god. Every time you show me a thing with that, you show me a panel, I'm like, here we go again.
I honestly thought this was the best issue
Really?
so far.
Okay.
Some things kind of like came together. I don't know why I'm still reading it.
I don't know either.
I don't know why I'm still reading it. I might need to drop it. I don't know. I know that when Matt saw it, hey Malika.
My mom's watching.
Oh, your mom's watching.
She's like, sometimes I don't understand what they talk about, but I watch anyway and make sure you click like they can see more views. It's good.
My dad's watching on the Twitch end.
My mom's watching on the Facebook end.
Oh, okay.
And she's like,
My mom's not watching.
and then my mom also said, how come like other people, they don't click like? It's very important. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook right now, my mom says, please
Click like, damn
click
it.
like and click share and make some comment in there, maybe smiley face or sticker.
For all 2 people watching on Facebook right now, make sure
One
to
of them
click
being
that
your
like
mother. Oh man, that's funny.
So yeah.
Spider-Man.
So I am,
Oh, my
like I said,
God.
I'm still reading Faithless. I keep waiting for it to like have some big purpose and meaning behind it all.
Yeah.
because usually Azzarello's stuff does eventually.
Yeah.
I'm
Eventually.
still waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we got a couple people on Facebook saying hi.
They click like. They can talk to my mom.
Ghost Spider number 1.
Oh my God. I wanted to read this so bad. I just ran out of time. Yeah.
It's fun. It kind of reestablishes. It's a weird setup.
Really?
It's a weird setup. I guess because for a while, all of the other universes got thrown into our universe, and everyone was back in 616. But I guess that's not a thing anymore. After Spider-Verse, maybe they were like, yeah, you know what? Let's have them all go back to... Yeah, it's fine. So it's like she's actually... But I guess actually they kept the Spider universes separate. That's right, because the Inheritors and everything that went down... Yeah, oh, whatever.
I can speak to that if you need help.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Someone who knows more than me.
So basically, after the last Secret War, they combined
You might have to lean down a little bit. There you go.
They combined the Ultimate Universe with the main universe. That's why Miles Morales is in the main universe.
Only the Ultimate.
But then they did a second Spider-Verse thing where it was like Spider-Geddon, and Gwen is the only one now who actually still has the ability to travel between worlds. So they had a plot for a while where she made it her mission to go to all the other worlds and tell people which Spider people had died on their world, so people could mourn them. And then she went back to her Earth, and now she's doing kind of back and forth, going to school on 616, but still hanging out and living on her
Right, people know who she
65,
is in 65, so she wanted to come to school in 616 where people didn't recognize her.
Yeah, because
So
she
she
outed
just
herself. Yeah.
She jumps the universe. And the
Yeah.
weirdest scene for me in that whole thing, where when she's just talking to the principal, and the principal's like, so this is a problem in your universe. We actually have a scholarship for that, the Tony Stark scholarship for people who are traveling from other universes for school programs and stuff. The principal at the school is just like,
What the hell?
oh,
Yeah.
you're from another universe.
Oh my God.
Welcome, come on in.
That's crazy.
And I was like, wait, what? What's going on in the Marvel universe now?
Yeah. The only problem I haven't read this issue yet, but my only issue is they keep resetting Gwen. Every 10 issues, Gwen has a new book, and it's just give her. So hopefully they're going to lock us in for a while and let it be what it is. But
Yeah.
I'm afraid what they're going to do is eventually cast off all of her 65 stuff and just keep her in 616, which I think is the end game with her. But it's a bummer because I love her 65 side of things, and I want them to keep her there. But I don't think they're going to do it that way.
Cool. Well, thank you
Interesting.
for the update,
Thank you,
Riley.
and thank you for all the compliments on my dress, according to chat right now. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Stick around for Rat Queens after this. Watch some Rat Queens tonight. Jumping right into my absolute favorite book on the stands right now. Excellence number 4. Actually, I probably do like House of X and Powers of X better, but
But it's so
Excellence
good.
is an amazing book, and everyone should be reading it.
As he stares at me.
You still haven't read Excellence?
No. I keep telling myself I'm going to have a weekend where I'm going to just read comics, and every time I get to the weekend, I'm like, I have 101 things I need to do. I guess that's not happening.
Excellence is so good.
I know.
It's so good, and this is a book that's going to be amazing as a trade. So maybe wait for the first trade and read it in one go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore to keep up with. That being said, if you read it all on Comixology right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'd be able to track it just fine, and you would be A-okay. But Excellence is one of the best books on the stands. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Moving right on to Detonator number 1. Did you read this one?
I did.
It's fun!
It's so good.
Okay, good.
Dude, I threw on. I didn't know what.
I didn't either. I didn't know what to expect.
I looked at the cover and I thought, I'm gonna put on John Carpenter. And Escape from New York started playing, and I was like, this actually works pretty damn well.
I had no fucking clue what this book was.
I didn't either.
And I love that the title almost sets you up to think it's something different than what it is
Totally.
too.
Yeah.
So,
This was such a fun read.
I don't even know who this publisher is. This might have been a Comixology original.
I don't know either.
The cover sold me.
Yeah, same.
I picked it up because of the
I
cover.
kind of want it as like a print.
And when I first saw this page, I was
Yeah.
like, I can tell that this is a new team.
Yeah.
I can get past that if the writing's good. But, there's certain comics that are coming out right now that are just like such a high bar. They can be like, okay, all right, well, where are we at? And this surprised me right
Totally.
off the bat. Like this here, get the fuck out of bed, all this stuff.
Well, it's funny too because I just watched The Matrix, and it totally felt like one of those like Neo scenes where he's like talking to Trinity or Morpheus through the computer, and I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this. This kind of feels like something I just experienced. It gets wild real
yeah,
quick.
as it keeps going, you start realizing okay, who is this guy?
Yeah.
What is this person that's toying with him?
And why?
And then all of a sudden a rocket flies through
I
his
turned
window.
the page. I went, what the shit?
And it's like, you need some fresh air. And then boom, the bomb goes off.
And I read it in guided view, so it goes panel to panel to panel.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going through and it's like building, and I'm like, oh, is this about to... And then it blows up. I'm like, what is going on? And I love the design of the characters, too.
And it only gets fucking weirder from there.
It does.
This is a really important panel. There,
Yes.
I gave you something else to cry about, you mopey fuck.
And then the next bit, where he starts,
Yeah.
powering up. You're like, oh shit, this is like someone with abilities? Okay. This may end up being the best idea.
Oh man,
So cool.
See, if we still had time
This
to
is
read
awesome.
comics, we would have probably read
I know.
this one.
This is so good.
So right there on that line too, you're like, what is going on? This
Yeah.
guy's like a villain, but yet
Yeah.
what? So the whole premise here is kind of like you learn that this guy
Mm-hmm.
is super powered. They live on this island where gangs are taking over, the
Yeah.
local government's failing, and this guy who's the explosive guy who you think is this big supervillain
Mm-hmm.
isn't harming anyone, but he's making it look like he is to
Yeah.
try to motivate this superhero
guy,
to come
yeah.
back into power
To do
because
something.
They need him.
To not be a mopey
So
fuck.
he's directly threatening him and
Yeah.
trying to get him engaged. And then at the very end of the book,
There's a twist.
there's a twist, and you find out like it's his best friend.
Yep.
And he's trying to set up his best friend to stop being depressed
And be a
get
hero.
out and be a hero.
Yeah, it's dope. I loved it. I wasn't expecting it, but because it's funny because now when you get to the ending and it's revealed to you, everything else makes so much more sense, and you're like, oh, okay, this is why this character was baiting him so hard. But I love the artwork. There's like something about it. It's not overly complicated, but I think the choice of like the color and the action and just how they use like the effects, artistic effects, to really like sell on what's happening, it works so incredibly well, and it was just fun.
It's a fun book.
Yeah, it was just really fun book, and like this part's great where he's like tricked and duped.
And you find out the whole reason he exploded the house that he was in, it was purposeful because he knew that his best friend would come to crash with him.
Exactly.
And he could start being more of a positive influence.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here, you mopey fug, let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an interesting way. If your best friend has superpowers and used to be a great hero that
Yeah.
saved everyone and he got depressed, how do you remotivate him to go out
Exactly.
and save the world?
Just blow up his house.
yeah, blow up his house.
No big deal.
Get his attention.
Yeah.
But I love that.
I love
to
how he
make
refers
this-
to the driver henchman.
Well, that's what I think's funny
So
is to
great.
make all this work, he created an entire supervillain persona
Yes.
with henchmen and everything else. It's so convoluted.
It kind of reminds me of who's the
It reminds me of the Venture Brothers a little bit.
I was gonna say it reminds me of Kick-Ass of
Yeah.
what's Christopher Mintz-Plass's character's name? I don't remember his name, but it kind of reminds me of that character. He's Mark Strong's, I think, son in the movies. But whatever.
I'll
his name
remember
is,
it when I
but
stop
yeah.
trying to think about it.
Yeah.
It's a great book, indie
It's
book
fun.
for sure, super indie. It
Yeah.
might be a Comixology original. Might be a
Yeah, it's
Comixology
cool.
original.
But I really dug it. It's a book that I definitely want to like find out. Okay, what happens next?
Right.
When they do actually end up talking.
So I'll be keeping up with this one.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
super
good.
fun. I did not expect almost any of that. As it kept going, I'm like, what is going
I'm
on?
like you. I only read it because of the cover,
Yeah.
and it was like a #1. So I thought like,
Yeah, what can you lose?
okay, why not?
I pick up #1s all the time.
It's
because
great,
I'm like,
though,
you
because
never
you get a
know.
flavor, yeah.
you never know. Am I going to dig this? Is this going to be one of my next favorite books?
Exactly.
It's exciting.
That's kind of how it happened with Space Bandits. I didn't know I was gonna love it, and I read that first issue. I was like, oh my god, this book is so good.
Okay, it's time. We always talk about this last, which we'll be doing until October. Powers of 10, which I told Adam, I feel like such an idiot. I was sitting there the other day, and you know what's funny though? I brought it up last night, and Matt had the same reaction I did. He was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
You guys were both F students in math, weren't you?
Yes, definitely.
I was a C student, so I can't really say much.
Powers of 10, I kept thinking was going to refer to the 10 lives, or that there's 10 X-Men, at the end of it all. And then as I was sitting here thinking about the book, I was like, wait a minute, Powers of 10, year 0, year 10, year 100, year 1000. Those are all powers of 10. I get it now. Wow.
But I don't think that. But I also do think that the fact that Amora has lived 10 lives. I think it's all connected.
Everything matters.
Yeah.
Everything matters. Now, before we dive into this book, you weren't here last week.
Yes.
Cameron and I talked about X-Men so much.
Yeah, I bet.
So much. I called this, by the way.
You did.
I fucking called it. Okay. But what did you think of number 3? You kind of read them together, so.
I did. I read them back to back. So I really, really, really liked number 3. The surprising thing for me, at least, between 3 and 4, 3 was like a read. There was like a lot of stuff in there.
4 moves.
Yeah.
Well, this is issue 3.
Sorry, that's right.
4.
Issue 2 of Powers of 10. I thought there was a lot to digest in that book, a lot of information. This one moves. I flipped and I got to the end and I went, that's it? Wow, I'm really surprised. But I really dug issue 2 a lot. I think
the phalanx at the end,
yeah,
all that stuff. So the second I saw, I guess we'll just go ahead and spoil it a little bit. The second I saw in number 2, Apocalypse, I was like, we have no reason to think that this year 100 is life 10 100.
Right.
This could be year 9, life 9 100.
Yeah.
Because we never see what happens. It's like if Hickman doesn't tell us that she dies in life 9, this matters.
Yeah.
And that literally gets answered for us in this book.
Yep.
In such a cool way.
Yeah. Oh God. This issue was between the action sequences and seeing the multiple storylines happening and then seeing the action sequences happening and seeing the diversions and how that all pays off at the end, to me is so fascinating. And like, again, like we talked about in previous episodes, I've obviously like not read a ton of X-Men, but to me, how Moira McTaggart has become such an important part of this story is so awesome.
Yeah.
Because I mean, cinematically, she was only in First Class. Or I guess she was. Was she?
I mean, the second they showed Moira as the wife of Apocalypse and what was it, issue 2?
Yeah.
It was like, what?
Yeah.
And then we get to see it in this, and you're like, oh god, this is so badass.
I know.
And then you realize the information she's given at the end of this book is exactly what leads to her change and thought and everything that's happening with Xavier. And you're like, what did he see? Like when he read her mind, was he able to see like how Nimrod came to be and what led to him and all this stuff? It's
Nimrod versus Apocalypse was sick.
Which, I mean, ties right back into Powers of 10 number 2, where he's telling Scott, Cameron and I talked about that scene with Scott where he's standing there and he's like,
good.
Does it need to be done, then consider it done, like was so badass.
So awesome.
So good.
And again, I listened to this with First Class and like the music just hit perfectly in certain scenes. I'm like,
nice.
oh god, this book is so amazing.
I love reading these every week. I'm so pumped to pick these up. I read them before I go to bed, so I read this one at midnight last night.
Yeah.
So as we go through it again right now, I'm gonna be refreshed. Like, oh yeah.
I honestly like.
I love this. I am immortal and I have no end.
Yeah.
So now that we saw
the quotes
number
are
2,
so important.
Yeah. House of X number 2, when we learned about Moira, and there was the quote from Apocalypse at the beginning of that about like that ascension, and we learn, okay, that mattered. This quote also matters.
Yes.
Because we think we see Apocalypse die at the end of this. Why would they put this at the beginning? You know what I mean?
Come on.
I don't think that's... Yeah.
Come on.
So we get introduced right off the bat with some humans that are accepting their new machine overlords.
Yeah, yep.
Dude,
I've never been so like sad for a baby in a comic book. I'm like, this is terrible.
So yeah, we're accepting these new humans are accepting the machine overlords. It's like the new religion. And I also like kind of seeing in this that not all humans are on board with this.
Yeah.
But I love we get to see more of Nimrod and how he doesn't really give a shit. And Cameron and I talked about this too last week. I think we both really like this weird Nimrod take.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mean but childlike.
Totally.
A little bit of a child.
Totally, yeah. It's got those like childlike qualities where it's like he just wants to just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know what the term for it is, but like, I'm trying to think. Not necessarily doesn't give a shit, but kind of.
Yeah.
Where it's just kind of like, I don't need to worry about this. You worry about this. Like, I got other things to do. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. Mom, get away. Yeah, no, it's a great character. And like just seeing like the seeds being sprinkled in of like, the X-Men figuring out like kind of what's going on while you're sometimes figuring out what's going on is really interesting. I also did love, I think it's this issue. Was it the last one? No, it's this one, I think, where Xavier convinces Magneto, like, just trust me on this one. And he sees, Moira shows him, or Xavier shows him what Moira's lived through.
Yep.
And how that kind of has changed Xavier's perspective. But he still is like, hey, as soon as you start to slip up, I'm gonna knock your
there.
ass back into shape.
I'm there.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I'm promising.
that's Magneto.
But then
That's
also
so good.
Xavier being like, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yep.
And you're just like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
going on? What did they see?
Yeah.
How are they so convinced?
Yeah. It's like seeing both characters slowly evolve into something else, but still maintaining sort of like the core of who they are.
I love that we get Zorn.
Yeah.
This scene with Zorn in this book, love it. Fucking love that Zorn's in this. Well, was.
Yeah. wow.
I mean, we're gonna scroll there. I love this, giving us a little graph. And this is
Yeah.
when I realized what was coming. I was like, Apocalypse, mother,
Yeah.
Moira's mother.
Yeah.
Like, the second I said, I was like, oh, I knew it. I was like, this is the timeline we're in. Like, Moira's mother. She has to be. And they're just setting it up. Because they already introduced in that other timeline breakdown that Moira was the one that started the Sentinel program
Yep.
and led to all that.
Yep,
So
yep,
Moira's
yep.
mother.
Yeah. This scene was great.
The art is killing
It's
it in
so
this book.
good, man.
The art is fucking insane in these scenes. So much stuff going on, but you can still track, you can still follow.
Yeah. I love the design of the of X. What is it? X100, right? It's 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love the design of the world and the characters. This like advanced tech. It has a little bit of like a Fifth Element vibe to it in parts.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I really love the artwork. I think that's part of the thing that, like, even though this book and the series is sort of like dense and like there's a lot happening, the artwork really helps you get through it because it's like not over detailed, but it's very impactful. Like the expressions of the characters, the action, the surroundings in the world, it's all kind of like important and purposeful. It's not just there to be there, which I think is something that like I love about this book. Yeah, all
this whole
he's
page.
he's like, yeah, you
This
deal
page
with
is
it.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, really nice.
I also like suit yourself. I always do.
I always do. Yeah.
He's got such a sassy attitude.
Yeah.
Sassy Nimrod. I'm here for it.
So how?
Oh, thank you, Gwen, for the tip over in Twitch.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yay, comics. Thank
How?
you.
What's Nimrod's like history in the X-Men universe prior to this? Is it pretty big or?
He's always been a huge part of the X-Men
Gotcha.
universe. It's kind of the next evolution of the Sentinels.
Sentinels. Okay. So it's always been a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, been around for a while
Yeah.
in the X-Men world. I would love to see people on the YouTube end here to like talk some more. I hope you all are reading the X-Men books.
Please.
Go pick them up so you can talk with us every week. I
So
want you guys to
good.
be able to talk to us about this stuff outside of just the Spider-Man news. We love talking about this stuff. It's really fun. Comic books are killing it right now, and I want you guys to be able to be a part of the conversation. Because I know, like, the second we start talking about comic books, YouTube chat goes dead, and we want you all to keep chilling, keep talking, and keep the conversation going. Because you might be surprised how many other people in the YouTube chat have actually read it and are caught up. All right. I do like that we finally got to see some action between. This was a great scene too, and it's cool to see these clones that are grown, kind of taking on the personalities of what they were cloned from.
Yeah.
Again,
This was
beautiful
awesome.
page.
It's the artwork is just like.
And that's the thing with
Man.
this issue. I saw some people on Twitter complaining like, "Oh, the others were so dense, and I don't feel like we got as much in this one." I completely disagree because the art. We've already stopped on a couple pages and just been
Yeah.
like, "Holy fuck!"
Yeah.
This shit takes time. This stuff takes time.
Yeah.
There may be less words, but the impact of what's in front of you from a visual standpoint. I mean, this is a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful piece right here.
Stealth Plays 29 says, I really want to, but I'm broke. Do I have to pay for Powers of X on Comixology? Yes.
Well, yeah, it's a yeah. And we pay attention to you, Guillermo. We read all of it. We do. It's just some people are
Some
like,
people are still talking about Spider-Man.
still
I'm
kind of
like,
yeah.
we're
It's
on
like
X-Men.
if you come into the chat, into the YouTube chat, and you just make comments about Disney, we're not gonna respond because we're not talking about it anymore. You got to be like on the level with us. I loved this scene too. I think the coloring is doing a lot right here too.
Oh, 100%.
The coloring in
palette
these
is
books
so good.
has been really strong. Morta?
Elliot Troy's asking, can we talk about the seed the guy ate to inhibit his pacifism?
Yeah. Yeah, the apocalypse seed.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that was interesting.
That was like, oh,
I can
okay.
stab you now because I ate a seed that inhibits my pacifism?
Okay, I can do it now.
Which is like,
Like,
is that
holy
a
shit.
Krakoa seed? Like,
Yeah.
is that going to come back ever?
Oh, yeah. This is the thing about this book too that I think is so cool is, again, everything seems to always have a purpose. You wouldn't put that in there to just never address it again. It will in some way, I'm sure, be brought back and talked about, which I think is like.
Oh,
great.
you know what? I feel like we should go back, actually. I
Dude,
think this is on
Wolverine,
me.
man.
I think I went a little too far here. We didn't break into this enough, and we should talk about this. I forgot
What?
that we actually get to see who they are.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Wolverine is War. No, it's not going to zoom in for us. I might be able to.
You have to, yeah.
There we go. So we've got Death is Zorn, and I love that they're letting you know it's a pure blood.
Yep.
Pestilence is North, Dane / Frost, Mutant, Chimera, 2nd Gen, and Famine, Krakoa, Cypher. So last week, Cameron and I were talking about it is mixed with Cypher, and it's a symbiotic mutant relationship, which I thought was interesting. Krakoa has become symbiotic for Cypher, most likely. So that was an interesting little breakdown there that we've got Famine, Pestilence, Death, and War. Apocalypse is 4 horsemen. Wolverine is War is awesome. And then we go into
I think this issue is the most time we've spent with Wolverine, right?
so far.
So far, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which
'Cause
I'm
he-
so okay with.
Oh, me too. But he kind of just like, not that he just sort of comes in, but we just kind of cut to him, and I'm like, wait a second. This is kind of like the most time we spent. I almost kind of forget that he's in this because it's been focused on so many other things that have been happening, which I don't mind at all.
So we saw Silabel die,
Yeah.
Percival die, or I guess they're dead. I don't know if we saw Percival Ghost die. Cardinal Rasputin. So yeah, that kind of breaks down for you who was left.
Yeah.
Which is not much. Not much in this era. Moving forward, we get to see Apocalypse kicking some ass.
This scene was so
good. Wolverine getting blown to bits as he does. But this is the shit I'm here for.
Yeah, this was amazing.
This is the shit
This
I'm
whole
here
dialogue sequence.
Like the X-Men knew they were going on a mission to die.
Yeah, they were going on a suicide mission. Like they were very aware. Not only that, they're very aware of like, well, this is the side hustle. You're not even aware of like the main thing that we're going on.
Yeah.
What's happening right now.
Yeah.
And then they made a plan.
I love this, that you don't even know what happens, you know, and it's like, you know what, you're right. I
What
don't
does
know.
happen? Oh shit!
And my favorite part is if you zoom in on this, and that's Zorn's face underneath his mask.
I loved that.
It's like, oh, fuck.
So
dude.
good, man. It was so good. Everything has purpose and power in this book. No. Dude, that's insane. That's crazy.
The texturing on this is so good. Yeah, Krakoa just opening up a portal.
Yep. Crazy. Crazy. But this was like, oh my god.
Yeah, Apocalypse is gonna get the shit.
And
kicked out of
Nimrod
him.
just calling out everything that Apocalypse is, but still just like hammering him down. It was crazy. Such good action.
Again, yeah, this is a really quick book.
But I don't. Page-wise, is it shorter too?
It might not be. It might just be
I
that
think it
it's
just reads really
fast.
There's a lot of action.
Actually, it might have been cheaper, so it might be less pages.
Ah.
And they switched the reading order.
Yeah,
This was
I
the
saw
switch
that.
in the reading order.
Yeah.
So
Powers of 10, 2 and 3, and now is
Goes
it
back.
is it going to be
Yeah,
House of
back.
X 2? Or
3.
2 issues? Oh, 3
Oh
issues.
no! I think it goes back to every other.
Oh, okay.
Well,
okay.
it'll tell us in a little bit.
That's true.
We'll be able to
True,
look
true,
at
true,
it.
true.
And there we have it. The freaking moment
Oh,
where you're
yeah.
like, oh, this is life
nuts.
9.
Yup.
Oh no. So now she has all the plans of And that to me was crazy too, because you realize, says that she's been in a sleep.
Yeah.
Apocalypse devised a way to take this information and bring it into her brain. So what this all lets you know is Apocalypse knows about Moira, knows her power, knows that when she dies, she's going to be reborn. And this is Apocalypse saying, we can't save this universe. Pass this information on to Xavier. They're the only hope we have.
wild.
It's not said, but it's said.
Yeah.
Because Apocalypse
It's
went
implied.
through all this stuff
Yeah.
to make sure Moira didn't die
Yeah.
until this information was given to her. She was
Yeah.
put into a cryosleep, woken up only
To just be given info.
to given this
killed.
info and then murdered.
It's wild. It's wild, dude.
And it's never said, but you're just like, fuck, man. Apocalypse admitting that he can't be the one and this information
so
has to be
crazy
passed
to
on to
think,
Xavier
yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, as soon as Wolverine was just like, I was like, oh no, this
I
is
also
really
love this.
going.
I'm sorry, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have what I need now, and this is what you do. I'm the best of, the best there is.
That's right.
Woo!
Ventus Ender says, do you think Apocalypse was easily beaten by Nimrod, or just let him win because the mission objective was complete?
I don't think Apocalypse would let anyone win.
There's reason for everything. I'm telling you, this book, everything is done on purpose.
I think Apocalypse knew he was outmatched. I
Yeah.
mean, they said in the last issue, like, going up against Nimrod was a suicide mission.
Yeah.
And they knew Apocalypse was a part of their team at that time. And they're literally the Four Horsemen, too.
Yeah.
So they're punching into a different weight class, and their plan is to make sure Nimrod never happens.
Yeah.
Because they're saying they can't defeat him.
Right.
I don't think he was letting him win.
Yeah. I also love just like the concept and the idea and how intimidating that is for this team that they have to deal with it in this way. And that even a character like Apocalypse says like, this is not the end game. Like it's something else. It's something higher than what we're doing here, which is like wild. But it was so good. And then you got this quote.
I love it. And then we get our timeline finally.
Yeah. Almost.
You finally get to see it. So this is all the stuff that they... I also like this. Avengers World defeated. Apocalypse War begins, Avengers World defeated, which is a direct tie into into Hickman's Avengers run. Apocalypse War never happened in his Avengers run,
Yeah.
but referencing Avengers as Avengers World
Yeah.
defeated, Hickman's the only person who ever said, like, I mean, that was his issue 1 of his Avengers run, is at the end, it's like, it's going to be an Avengers World. So that's a tie-in. Just a little nod there.
Yeah.
So we get to see, when she's 50, Nimrod comes online. 56, Kieran Tian destroyed by Nimrods. Akaba abandoned. Retreat to Kraken Stronghold. Your 60, first generation of Sinister mutants. Third generation of Sinister Chimeras. Whew. Keeps going. Year 88, Black Brain Hounds created. Fourth generation Sinister Chimeras. Fall of Krakoa, death of the First Horseman. Collapse of Mars, Asteroid K established, which is where their base was.
That's right, yep.
Mutant Exodus to Shi'ar space. Moira and Apocalypse formulate plan to eliminate Nimrod. Fuck yeah. Black Brain Hound assassination attempt on Apocalypse. Moira injured and placed in stasis. So that was a gap of
What is that?
15 years, 16 years? 16 years
Yep.
between her being injured and put in stasis.
Yep. Crazy.
Damn, dude. And there we go. That was
Powers of X.
Powers of X. And then we get 2 episodes of 2 issues of House of X in a row.
Ah, okay. Woo!
This is good shit.
Damn.
This is good shit. Now we get to check back in on our babies in year 10 and
I
see what's
know.
going on.
It's been honestly like this is one of the only times that a comic book has jumped through multiple timelines and multiple story arcs happening simultaneously, and I have not been confused because it's so clearly defined what time we're in, what events are affecting, other events and all that sort of stuff. I feel like a lot of other times when I've read books and they jump around, I don't even realize that the book is jumping around. And it's not till the end that I realize, like, oh, there are different things happening here. I didn't even realize it. So that's one thing that I like give huge praise to this comic book for, that they've really been able to figure out of like, how do we cleanly tell the audience where we're at, what's going on. Obviously the labels really help, and the fact that the worlds are all designed so uniquely from each other, which would make sense if you're doing Powers of 10, like, of course, because of the way tech has changed, that would happen. But yeah, these books are so good.
So good.
Yeah.
And I love that we get to talk about them every week with you all. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of Comics and Coffee, sitting through all of the discussion at the beginning and talking about comic books. And if we learned anything today, it's shut the fuck up.
And we'll find out what Life 6 is in the future.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Head over to our Twitch channel right now, twitch.tv/hyperrpg. The dogs are playing.
Eating each other.
Oh boy. Well, we got to deal with that. Head over to twitch.tv/hyperrpg to watch Rat Queens, our live comic book TTRPG show. You won't regret it. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.